Tonight on The Local Live, local leaders discuss community issues at the local summit. Larchmont Day was a success. See how LMCTV participated. We have the best moments and a fashion recap from the 70th Primetime Emmy Awards. And we discuss the state of the press on this week's Roundtable. Good evening, it's Thursday, September 20th. I'm Alexandra Garcia and welcome to The Local Live. Village mayors Tom Murphy and Lorraine Walsh, along with Town Supervisor Nancy Sellingson, recently voted with other Westchester municipality leaders to approve an amended shared services plan. The plan is set to begin in 2019 with projected savings of $27 million annually for county taxpayers. It also aims to provide Westchester residents with better services. The plan was submitted to the New York State Division of the Budget last week. More information can be found by visiting westchestergov.com. At its September 5th meeting, the Mamaroneck Town Council unanimously voted to increase water rates by 3.5%. Mamaroneck gets its water from New York City, which did not raise its charges this year. The increase was effective September 1st, 2018. It will generate around $45,000 this year and increase residents' costs by an average of $30 annually. The local summit started its 2018-2019 season with municipal leaders discussing current issues for Larchmont and Mamaroneck.
With all the divisiveness and polarization we have going on in our world at the moment, especially our nation, I do think that local government and county government and state government are really more important than ever, because we are the ones, especially local government, where your boots are on the ground here. This is your quality of life issues, and we are working together with the county. We're lucky to have a cooperative county executive now too, and it is really an important time, I think, for local government.
When I first became mayor 2.5 years ago, our vacancy rate was about 12% in the downtown area. We've managed to get it down to somewhere between 5 and 6%. Really very importantly and telling is that several of the stores in Larchmont have expanded or are planning to expand very soon. And that says to me that if you have a well-run business, there is definitely, Larchmont is a healthy place for you to have your business. There's a lot of buying going on, and that we are on the rise.
One of the things that the board has initiated in the past year is something called the Safe Streets Initiative. We're all overbooked. We're all stressed. At the end of the school day, we got to get this kid to ballet, this kid's got to go to soccer, and it makes for a hectic life that we've given ourselves. But that being said, we could all slow down and protect our children, and that's the message that we're trying to get out. This is about protecting our kids.
You can watch this and other local summit events in full, recorded on location by LMCTV and Nautilus Diner by visiting the link on your screen now. The Mamaroneck Town Council approved an agreement with AT&T to participate in the telecommunication company's FirstNet program. AT&T has been working with federal and state governments to develop a cellular service network that prioritizes public safety communications during an emergency.
In order to join the FirstNet program, however, the town must also be a part of what's called the NPP-Gov procurement program. NPP-Gov focuses on technological equipment, computers, telephones, things like that. We're actually in the AT&T system now, so they're going to just exchange the phones. So the phone has the, I think we have 36 users.
So it's the employees that have the
employees that are
phone.
assigned phones will have a phone with this feature.
So even if they're not emergency personnel, like recreation?
No, only the emergency personnel will get the phones with the push-to-talk feature.
Okay.
And the priority.
and the priority
So it goes
calling.
together.
That only is for emergency service personnel.
Whenever cellular communications are not fully functioning during emergencies, first responders with phones under the FirstNet program will have priority to make and receive calls. The phones will also have a push-to-talk feature like a walkie-talkie. Tying in with that development, September is National Preparedness Month. The flooding caused by Tropical Storm Florence on Tuesday reminds us that it is important to have an emergency plan in place to help you, your family, and your community. You are also encouraged to take time to learn CPR and first aid and study how your insurance operates in times of disasters. For more information on being prepared for a possible flood, visit www.ready.gov/floods. And now Maura Carlin will lead a discussion on the state of the media in tonight's roundtable.
Fake, enemy, biased. Those are just a few of the things the American press has been called by President Trump. Tonight I'm joined by two journalists to discuss the state of the press in our society. I'm Maura Carlin. Thank you for joining us. We are joined here by Lou Young, who is a longtime reporter for CBS News and is now Director of Communications for Sussman for Attorney General. Alina Tugend is a New York Times contributor and a journalist who also writes for other news outlets. And we have our own news director, Sibylla Chipaziwa. And as always, you can join the conversation. Call, email, tweet, the contact information's on your screen. So I'm just going to dive right into this. Is the press the enemy of the people?
Heck no. I had to. No, it's not. It's not. It is the safeguard and the protector of facts. The watchdog. The thing that checks. Is it always right? No. Has it been somewhat sensational of late and perhaps drifting a little bit? Yeah, but essentially, it's the essential element of a democracy. Without it, it's not going to happen.
What do you think, Alina?
I think, of course, I absolutely agree with Lou being a journalist, but I also feel that the press has covers such a wide entity now. We're not just talking about newspapers or TV, we're talking about internet, we're talking about online magazines, we're talking about many different things. And I think the press, as I think about it, the professional press that cares about facts, that of course doesn't always get it right, but tries to, is absolutely the safeguard of a democracy. And it's very sad that you even have to ask that question in a way. Is it the enemy of the people?
And shooting the messenger is an ancient tradition. You don't like the news, you blame the messenger. You don't like it. I mean, you want to hear what you want to hear. So that's a natural impulse. This isn't the first time it's happened.
That was actually where I was going.
I was going to add to that.
Who remembers the nattering nabobs of negativity?
Yeah.
Spiro Agnew. I was in high school. Richard Nixon was lashing out at the elitist left-wing press, right? And his vice president, who ended up being a convicted felon, and the president himself, who ended up resigning and being pardoned, tried to make the bearer of the bad news the enemy. That could be very well what's happening again. And so that message you have to be suspect of.
I would just to add, I'd say absolutely true. And the only difference now is Twitter and all the social media, and that we have a president, well, Nixon, of course, and Agnew did attack the press. We have a president who's gone that much further in demeaning it. And we have fake news that is enforcing
And there
that.
are people who are buying it. I mean, I have seen bumper stickers that say
Absolutely.
biased media, fake news,
but it's not new.
enemy of the people.
It's not new. It happened during the Vietnam War. We the media, lost the Vietnam War. We cost America the war by not playing the game.
Yes.
And not buying the government's line on things and reporting accurately what the members of the press were seeing. Then I was going to say I was too young, but what people saw then, and that there was a time at which they leapt from the World War II model where you went through censorship and you accepted all that, to where they actually said, this is not, they're not telling us the truth, it's a lie, and they changed their reporting. And that became, when they refused to play the game anymore, they became the enemy. So if we're not going along with the government, we become the enemy. You don't want us going along with the government, trust me.
There's a I'm sorry, Mark, there's a well-known saying, you know, that journalism is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And I think that that is always, every journalist should keep that in mind. And I think, though, unfortunately, too many people think the role of journalists is to comfort the comfortable.
Well, one of the things, and I think it's relatively new, is that there's there's actually a spectrum of media, whether it's press, that is, you know, actually opinionated. So what I want to ask is, let's take the opposite ends. Is there a difference between Sean Hannity and Rachel Maddow in terms of what they're doing to the press?
Well, they're the same thing. They're commentary, and they're on opposite ideological sides. And I may believe one is more competent than the other, but they're not the news. They're analysis, and the people don't seem to understand the difference between news and analysis.
So how should we determine which is news and analysis? Some kind of critical thinking that maybe people should be taught.
Well, I think there definitely needs to be a lot of media literacy taught in schools, starting very young. I think not just to learn the difference between opinion and news, but also to learn where you get your sources, what's a valid source and what's not, and why is that. Also, we lived in London, my family, for quite a long time. Their journalism is opinion-based. We are a fact-based. They're the major newspapers. You know which one's on the left, you know which one's on the right. That's not how we've done it in American journalism, and that's not how it's done, though many people would disagree with that.
The papers are fun to read, though, aren't they?
They certainly are.
I think it's really interesting to note how you had mentioned with, you know, Nixon's, you know, presidency and even the Vietnam War, and how now, you know, it's social media has just taken over and has changed everything, and we have, you know, Trump in the White House now. It's interesting how with shifts, like, so with the Vietnam War, that's when people would say war came home. It came into your living room.
Absolutely.
In the evening, you know, you could turn on the news and just watch the horrors that was happening there. And now, whatever time he wakes up, 6 a.m., he hears whatever, and he just goes off on his phone. And I guess it's more, you know, he's more accessible by the public in that way, and I guess more visible, but then just the medium of social media, it's just very me, you know, it's my opinion, and
yeah, you don't want, but
you know,
in the president's case, you don't want to confuse the messenger with the message.
Well, yeah.
Or the media with the message.
Yes.
In other words, he has his own message. He's got his own faults. Those faults may have been the same in a different age, but they manifest themselves differently because we are where we are now. So I wouldn't want to blame Twitter necessarily.
Yeah,
We're going to have to take a quick break, but stay with us because we're going to continue our discussion on the state of the press and the difference, in fact, between professional and citizen journalism. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you know how to request our services? Just go to LMCTV.org. Under the service banner, click Forms. In our Forms section, you can apply to be a volunteer, learn about membership, learn about corporate underwriting, request a bulletin board, coverage, DVD dubs, equipment, and PSAs.
It's all a click away at LMCTV.org.
Welcome back. We're going to jump into what is actually the job or role of a journalist? Is it to tell a story, to give unbiased facts, to interpret the facts?
Well, I mean, I think a journalist, for every human being has a bias. No journalist can walk in and say, I don't have a bias. The point, though, is you can find facts. And even if they're facts that you disagree with, or even if they're facts that don't fit the story you initially had in mind, if they're real, that's what you include in the story.
Yep.
I think that to go to your question about citizen journalism, if you want to jump right to that, versus professional journalism, is there's a huge difference. Of course, I've been a journalist for almost 30 years, but I'm still learning. And I've learned a lot since when I began till now. And I feel that what people don't realize is this isn't just something you sit down and you write. You do reporting, you do research. A lot of those who saw Spotlight, the movie about the Boston Globe, were surprised at the scenes where they're just going through dirty files, old dusty files. That's a lot of journalism. And citizen journalism, I guess part of it is I would ask you how you define that. What would you consider citizen journalism?
Well, I'm going to ask you, since you're teaching a course on it.
Well, I will say this. I mean, journalism is not a licensed profession. Anybody can be a journalist.
Sure.
You don't have to go to a journalism school. As a matter of fact, most good journalism schools are heavy in other courses and studies and specialties. You can't have too many journalism schools, but it's not because it's not a trade school. The idea of being inquisitive, of asking questions, and of collecting facts, and then arranging them in a certain way, and then knowing enough to double check, knowing enough that if it seems obvious, maybe you have to double check and try to get it verified again. To be sure, because you're not an expert. You don't know everything. Usually you're writing about something you have no first-hand knowledge of at all. So you have to ask a lot of questions. And that can happen without being trained. Most people need to be trained. But it's something you can learn to do. But journalism is not sitting down and saying, this is what I think because this is what I saw on TV. That's not journalism. That's just,
let me throw out examples. Somebody in the community goes to a meeting and writes up what they saw at the meeting. That's citizen journalism?
Sure, if it's structured correctly, and in the course I'll be teaching, I'll explain what you would have to do. And you have to go, what was that person's name? That person at the back, what's their story? Maybe there's more to this. Maybe as you're looking into it, and the truth is you look for something that's unusual, and then you check it out. I remember a professor of mine saying, you're sitting there at a meeting, and they're going through, and they're saying, and then we approved $35,000 for a hood ornament on a Jeep. And you go, wait a minute. That's a lot of money for a hood ornament, and Jeeps don't have hood ornaments. And so there's a question. Now you go follow it up, or somebody yells at a meeting, and you go find out what they're yelling about, and then you find out maybe there's a whole backstory there. Avenues open up.
But you also need, as a journalist, someone stands up. Recently, there was a meeting about a local gun ordinance in the community. Someone stands up and talks, and you're going to report that. You're going to want to find out, are they a local resident? Oh, they're not. They're coming from outside.
Yeah.
Okay, who do they represent? Oh, it's something called Citizens for a Safe America. Is that a gun control group? Is that a pro-gun group? You got to go behind that. You can't just say Joe Schmo from Citizens for a Safe America stood up, because that doesn't tell you what's behind that person. And that's what journalists do. And too often when you read blogs and things like that nowadays, they're getting it off the New York Times, off NPR, off the Washington Post. They're not doing their own reporting. And that is what a journalist is.
What about video? You go out, you see something happening, you take out your phone, and you film it, and you post it.
You could do that, but video always has context. Am I correct? So, and now...
And you've only, like a
TV,
photo, it's a snapshot
local
of
news,
a
you can't
moment.
get a story on local news without surveillance video anymore. I don't care if it didn't happen in front of a camera, it doesn't exist. They won't run it. And then they run stuff that they would have never reported on before because there's video of it. So that can be an issue. Well, I'm drifting off there. What does the video show? What does it mean? Is there a context to it? Did you see something else? And then we get to the issue of fake news, which there is a real thing called fake news, and it means that news is absolutely made up, which is why the accusation that the real news is fake news is so abhorrent. It's such an outrage, because there is a real thing about where people make things up to try and get people's tempers flared up. I could tell you some great stories about fake news I came across, and we stopped it. We didn't report it. But it takes a journalist's skill to realize something's not right. Did anybody see this? Is this picture correct? Yeah, it was on Facebook. No. Did you see it? And this has actually happened. And then you go and nobody in the town actually saw the thing that there's a picture of in the town, and you realize somebody just made it up and doctored it and photoshopped it.
Well, what do you think of the other night? Anderson Cooper came out, and actually he had been accused of doctoring or faking some film that he was out in the floods for Florence, and it was a video from 10 years ago from some other club, and they said that he was on his knees to show how deep it was, but it was Florence.
Okay.
And he actually, instead of being quiet like he has been in the past, came out and said, "This is ridiculous. This is a 10-year-old video." And is that what people have to do now? Come out and defend themselves and clarify the record?
If you can, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that situation, so I'm not totally clear on what it is. I guess what I would, just to go a slightly different tangent, is Lou's absolutely right. There is fake news, but too often people now sort of throw up their hands and say it's all fake, and it's not. Most journalists I know, they're always bad apples. Are very hardworking and do the best they can to get the best story out there. Mistakes are made, but that's not the case with really professional journalists.
Usually fake news means I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you tell about where you're teaching your course and how people can sign up.
LMCTV, I think the class is at Mamaroneck High School.
It's the Lordship Mamaroneck Center for Continuing Education.
And there are 4 classes in October and 4 in November. The 4 classes in the 4 class sessions in October are the elements of news. Just why is it? You can tell stories, but why is a news story a news story? And there are ways. People may disagree with it, but I have a way of evaluating that I learned, and we'll go through that. We'll have an assignment editor come in and explain to people how decisions are made. And this is 2 things. You can learn how to do news, or you can learn how to evaluate it. Because a lot of times you see that you'll go, why did they cover that? And because it's not really news. But why isn't it news? It's kind of weird. It just being weird doesn't make it news. Or sometimes it does. Yeah. But there's a way to evaluate it, and you'll learn that. And then the second course, Citizen Journalist, is just really taking those elements and just observing things and then trying to tell a story. And then realizing what you were saying, that there's more to it. You can't just sit down and write it. You have to actually make a couple of calls and check and look something up, and it doesn't just fall together. You have to go through it to make a story, and then sometimes the story isn't what you've started out to do.
And you have to be willing
and you have to
change
accept
it.
that. And I mean, one of the first things I was ever told as a very young journalist is 10 editors will get a story and can change it in 10 different ways. 10 reporters can write the same story. There are many different ways to write a story. That doesn't make it wrong or right, but there's basic facts that are going to be correct or not correct.
Which is what, I mean, my tumultuous final years in local TV news, that's not what we discussed in the morning meeting.
It changed.
I hadn't left the building yet in the morning meeting, and this is what I came up with. But that's not what we teased.
Exactly.
So that's what I was talking about.
We're going to stop you there. We're going to come back.
I could go on and on.
We have to take another quick break, and we're going to continue our discussion with the press in just a moment.
Did you know that if you missed the last government meeting, you can watch it on our website? Just go to LMCTV.org, click on videos, then click on municipal meetings, scroll down to find the meeting you want, or use the search function in the upper right corner and type in the name or date of the meeting. Then watch. You can see the full agenda and jump to a specific agenda item.
It's all a click away at LMCTV.org.
Welcome back. Okay, so what is the press getting wrong, and what is it getting right?
I know you have strong feelings.
Well, I feel like I'm hogging I'll tell you this. I mean, people say, the liberal media, all right? And in some ways, reporters tend to be maybe politically liberal because they, I guess, real liberals reevaluate what they think all the time. Left-wing ideologues don't, but liberals do. But they work for corporations, and corporations are conservative. And corporations assign the stories, and corporations have a vested interest in the status quo and things running smoothly, and having candidates who spend vast sums of money to advertise. They like that. They don't necessarily want campaign finance reform. They make money off of a system that is corrupted by the influence of money. I mean, they all do, especially television. And so I'm saying, in some ways, what did they get wrong? In some ways, they're too conservative. They're not aggressive enough to find the alternate voices outside the status quo.
Or is it the business model that you're criticizing?
It's a business. Well, you know what? The business model makes it happen. I mean, when TV news didn't make a lot of money, it was maybe not better or more fun to look at, but it was probably purer, less corrupted. Once it became a profit center, the trouble started. And I made a lot of money, you know, reports. So I'm not complaining, but there were lots of compromises.
I mean, I'll look at it more from a print angle because that's all I've been involved in, and I certainly think that newspapers and journalists, certainly they are businesses, though you have a lot of nonprofit models now that actually have come in as new voices, places like ProPublica and The Intercept. But I guess what I would say is I think that the Trump presidency has been a time where, as some say, it's the worst thing that's happened to journalism because the enemy of the people sort of thing, but in some ways it's the best because they have reevaluated. I've been very impressed, I mean, with some errors of places like the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times, where they have totally reevaluated how they do things. For instance, you would never have called the president a liar before. They very thoughtfully had many meetings to discuss whether that is a word you should use about the president. He didn't so
obviously lie.
Right, but National Public Radio decided they wouldn't use that word because you had to show intent, and there were various reasons. But I'm saying, how do you cover the president who tweets constantly? Is that always news? They have constantly had to reevaluate themselves, running the anonymous op-ed that appeared in the New York Times. And I'm just saying they've taken and done some incredible investigative pieces on things that sound very boring, like arbitration clauses that are incredibly important to your average person, whether they know it or not. So I'm not trying to sound like some cheerleader for the press. I have plenty of criticisms, but I've been certainly very impressed over this last year how hard a look they've taken at themselves.
I'll put a note of caution there. Sometimes not-for-profit doesn't mean pure of heart.
Sure,
because
absolutely.
they have models. They have ways of getting money. They have grants, and sometimes they've got to show results. So if they've got a story that has some flaws in it that maybe they don't recognize or won't admit, they will flog that story to get change, so they can point to it and say, "We got change. Give us money."
I mean, nothing is perfect.
Yes.
But I think that as journalism is struggling and trying to figure out how to make a business model out of what essentially has not, has had severe problems since the internet and the recession. I think that these nonprofit models, some of them are certainly been effective, have provided alternate voices, and journalists have to look at other ones. But given that, I'm saying the major, certainly print, and there's some broadcasts and some radio that we could see have done really an excellent job overall.
You need a lot of voices. You work for a government agency, right?
We're on the show right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't consider ourselves a government agency. We're funded by the Tri-Municipal Group,
right?
But
you could wander into your funding stream accidentally and get in a little trouble.
Well, the funding stream is really the cable providers.
So I worked for New Jersey Public Television years ago, back when gambling was first legalized in Atlantic City, and we did a series about compulsive gambling, and there was some serious stuff that went on over that.
Can I interject one thing?
Sure.
I think one thing, I do think people and corporations have biases, and I think sometimes they come out and it's bad. I also think most people don't realize what goes in, how often what happens is just a matter of pure chance. The timing a story breaks, how much space you have. You've had 3 depressing stories on the front page, let's put a lighter one on. I think that people do not realize how random a lot of this is. There's not some great conspiracy
We
behind it.
don't have time for conspiracy.
That's right. Or the organization for conspiracy.
Before we finish, as we're running out of time, can we just talk about your thoughts on local journalism, which is Sibylla's expertise here, and what it's like to cover the difficulties in covering the community you live in?
I want to say that, first of all, certainly, again, this past year, it's sadly missed how much local journalism we don't have. I think a lot of people have talked about it's become more and more apparent how important it is, and people understanding the elections.
Has it become difficult to follow
Local issues?
news?
I think
Do you
so.
feel?
I think
okay.
so. Speaking in this, I think, you know, you have the journal news, you have LMCTV, you have local TV stations, but it's very hard to get it in the way I think you used to when maybe the Times had its own section that covered it. You don't have that anymore. A couple of other, I can't think right now, but a couple of other outlets that specifically covered local are gone. And I think it's gotten harder and harder to find it. And it's really shown in how little people know about local politics and local events.
And because you have so many sources of information, the evening news, the 6 o'clock news, is no longer the news.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I turned on the 6 o'clock news or the 5 o'clock news and learned something I didn't already know. So it's not the news, it's a TV show about the news. Therefore, all the flashy videos and interesting things and talky pieces about whether or not salt makes you impotent or whatever it is. I mean, whatever. I mean, whatever the latest weird thing is, you know, or what do you think of this video, or what do you think of this Snapchat thing, or you know, should so and so have said this, and all this celebrity news. That's what makes it run, because it's a TV program, and you're not really informing people. They already know what you're telling them.
Can I just say that I think that's true. I think you have a vast majority of people who don't care about strong news or local news, or in general, they're more interested in the clickbait or whatever. But I think you have a significant minority that have become increasingly interested. I think just the fact, for example, the recent election and the IDC candidates mainly losing, people now know what IDC was, who never knew it, myself included, who never knew what it was a year ago, and are hungry for more. I mean, that may be statewide, but local also has a role to play in that.
Like was a guy named, I'll say a reporter I know, Dominic Carter. He works for FiOS One, and they're underfunded, and they deal with it. But he does state politics. Well, nobody does state politics. I mean, nobody. No TV does it, right? So I go, this is interesting. I sat down and watched it. You know, I said, this is, nobody's doing it. They do, you know, they'll run up to see if Richard Gere is going to run for Congress, you know, or something like that. But they won't cover the Attorney General's race.
Well, we are actually out of time. I want to thank you, Alina Tugend and Lou Young. Sibylla, of course, always a pleasure. Thank you for watching the Roundtable. Stay tuned for more of The Local Live, and we'll see you next week.
I'm a reporter, I'm a producer, I'm a writer.
I am a news anchor, I am a producer.
I am a news editor.
I am the technical director.
I am a reporter, I am an anchor.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I'm a proud resident of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and I like to give back to the community.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I believe in bringing the news into your living room.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I believe in leadership, support, and success in a community.
I volunteer at The Local Live because it's a fun learning experience, and I know each week I come, I can learn something new.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I believe in community television.
As a spring intern at The Local Live, I learned new skills like video, editing, and production, and furthered my skills as a writer. The internship gave me confidence as I embarked on my journey through the world of journalism.
We are The Local Live.
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 Last Saturday, Larchmont Day celebrated the incorporation of the village in New York State 127 years ago. Here's a recap of the annual event in its third year and see how LMCTV made revelers fly through space.
Welcome to Larchmont Day. I'm Mayor Lorraine Walsh. I have with me the Board of Trustees of the Village of Larchmont. We have Bubba Finelli, Sarah Bauer, Carol Casasa-Herman, and Malcolm Froman. We have lots of things to do here. The food truck. All of our DPW trucks and some from the town, fire trucks, ambulance corps. The PVA is here doing child ID and bike safety. Further down, we have the Chamber of Commerce with a Wheel of Fortune. They're doing Larchmont Bucks coupons. We have a whole bunch of community group tables with information about organizations in the community that help people that you might want to get involved in. We're also have information on the food composting program, and I believe they're selling the bucket kits. In the park, we have games. We have great live music all day. We have pony rides and a petting zoo. We have two face painters in the gazebo. We have popcorn and cotton candy. And LMCTV, they're filming, and also stop by their booth. You can get interviewed and you can learn a little bit about our wonderful local cable television station.
If you flew through space with us on Saturday and would like your footage, visit LMCTV.org for more information. Sebastian Hall brings us the best parts from the 70th Emmy Awards celebration on this episode of Fashion Rundown.
Welcome to this new episode of Fashion Rundown. I am Sebastian Hall. It was an exciting Monday night as today's top TV stars celebrated the 70th Primetime Emmy Awards, and here are the best moments plus the recap from the sizzling red carpet. Colin Jost and Michael Chi hosted the event with some hit and misses in their opening monologue. As the night progressed, it was clear that streaming services as Netflix and Amazon were equally winning to HBO and FX. Betty White received an standing ovation as the Television Academy celebrated her journey on the small screen. Matthew Rhys received the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, The Americans, and Claire Foy as Lead Actress in The Crown. RuPaul's Drag Race won the Emmy for Outstanding Reality Competition Program and SNL for Outstanding Variety Sketch Series. The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story, won the Emmy for Outstanding Limited Series on FX, while The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel for Outstanding Comedy Series. To close the event, Game of Thrones won for Outstanding Drama Series on HBO. And director Glenn Weiss stole the night as he proposed to girlfriend during his speech as he won the Emmy for Outstanding Direction of a variety special, which was the Oscars. But enough about the awards. Let's talk about the fashion hit and misses on the red carpet. The talented comedian Tiffany Haddish, which I love, showed up in this colorful dress and playful dress that show happiness, but to me, she left a comedy special at the circus and arrived at the Emmys with the circus tent on her. Amazing and charismatic TV host and actress Tracee Ellis Ross once again took a risk when she left Barbie's house and grabbed the bedspreads when she rolled out of bed, and she showed up in this pink hot mess. Last but not least, sexy and talented actress Penelope Cruz, who showed up in this Chanel gown, was made out of white peacock feathers. Terrible. But it's not always bad. Now let's talk about the good stuff. Beautiful actress Jessica Biel showed up in this gorgeous, gorgeous gown that both highlighted elegance and with a modern twist. Her hair was the perfect match for the pattern dress, and her soft makeup closed the look to perfection. Our last choice was Scarlett Johansson, who displayed both sexiness and elegance with a touch of Hollywood old glamour in this perfect white gown. Well, I hope you like our Emmys recap. For The Local Live, I'm Sebastian Hall. And remember to always stay fabulous. Good night.
This fall, LMCTV will kick off their after-school clubs at Chatsworth, Rhinebeck, Effie Bellows, Mamaroneck Avenue School, Central School, and Murray Avenue School. The clubs will provide students with the basic tools to create their own TV shows that will air on our channels. Students will be honoring talent, working the cameras, editing on Max, and learning stop-motion animation to create the opening titles for their shows. If your children are interested in learning TV production, keep an eye out for lights, camera, action in your elementary school this winter and coming spring. The Food Scrap Recycling Program will be celebrating its first anniversary on Saturday, September 22nd at the Farmers Market in Larchmont. The food program helps our environment by getting food waste out of the incinerator and recycling it into healthy compost for our gardens. The Mamaroneck Artists Guild will be holding its annual award show opening Wednesday, September 26th through Saturday, October 13th. The opening reception will be on Saturday, September 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. For more information, visit www.mamaroneckartistsguild.org. On Saturday, September 23rd, St. John's Lutheran Church will host a Refugee Sunday community lunch and day of action. Established in 1939, the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service has since welcomed more than 379,000 refugees to the United States. For more information, RSVP to attend, or to learn more about Welcoming Week, visit welcomingamerica.org. And mark your calendars for the Village of Mamaroneck Spooktacular on Sunday, October 21st, brought to you by the Recreation Department and the Chamber of Commerce. Celebrate Halloween with our neighborhood kids through window painting, a costume parade, a haunted house, and more. Visit the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce site on your screen now for more information on how to donate materials such as candy, water, or even your services as entertainment for the kids. You can also sign up to volunteer throughout the day. In April this year, LMCTV launched a fundraising drive around a mural in our town center studio. We have a new donor this week. Thank you to all who have donated. The mural is still missing some pieces. Individuals as well as groups can help by visiting lmctv.org/communitymural.
We would like to thank local artist Jamie Lynn at Made, an art studio in Mamaroneck, for creating a beautiful community mural. Place your piece in this mural by contributing to LMCTV, the community connection that brings you local board meetings, varsity sports, and your local news. Please contribute to this community mural by going to our website and clicking on Donate. Each contributor will be listed next to the mural when it is complete. We value your appreciation of what we do. Become a single donor or as a group, go to lmctv.org. The only piece missing is you.
This week in sports, the Mamaroneck Field hockey team continued a hot start to the season with some help from senior Alex Lepore's first half hat trick against Suffern. All three of Lepore's goals were impressive, but it was her second that takes the honor as this week's LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
And Aaron Carter makes a pass to the center, and this is a great pass and a goal. This time, it looks like Alex Lepore with another goal, her second of the game. And Mamaroneck takes a 3-0 lead with 6:54 left to go in this first half.
In our continuing effort to be your community media center, you can now reserve time and space to record a podcast. LMCTV staff have just launched their own LMC Cast. Have a listen at lmctv.org/podcast. You can also learn how we can help you produce your very own show. We'd like to say thank you to those of you who have expressed interest in this exciting and growing medium. And now it is time for Pets of the Week, provided by Pet Rescue. Hudson is a very handsome 7-month-old kitten whose brothers were recently adopted. This boy is friendly, lively, alert, full of fun, and will be a good kitty for a family. Visit Hudson now at the Kitty Cottage. Jenny is a pretty lab beagle mix, about 1.5 years old. She is very sweet and friendly, being quite the snuggler. She will love a fenced yard to play and explore. Jenny has been working with a trainer on getting more comfortable around other dogs, but she will need to be your one and only in the home. For more information on Hudson or Jenny, or if you want to adopt or foster any of the other pets, please visit ny-petrescue.org. We love hearing from our viewers. Email comments, inquiries, and even news tips, pictures, and videos to the local live at lmctv.org. Remember, if you ever miss Thursday's live broadcast, you can catch replays of the local live twice a day on this channel. Plus, find your story clips on our YouTube channel. Watch the latest community events that LMCTV has covered by visiting the link on our website on your screen now. And don't forget that tomorrow, Friday, September 21st, is Car-Free Day in the Hudson Valley, and sadly, the last day of summer. Hello, fall. Thank you for watching The Local Live. I'm Alexandra Garcia, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.